Teresa Shafer. I'm Professor of Management and Associate Dean of our International Business Programs.
And I'm Christina Smart, Assistant Professor of Management here at Tiffin, and I teach primarily in the org behavior area, HR area, and I've led several international trips as well.
We are gathering a number of students together to join us on a trip to Russia starting this coming May of 14. We're leaving May 15th. We'll return May 23rd. And we really started planning this trip a year or so ago because both of us have led trips in the past, and this was an area of the world that neither one of us had been to, and we were just excited to try to explore someplace new. So the trip is about 9 days. We'll be leaving out of Detroit. We'll fly out of Detroit, go and spend about half of our time in Moscow and another half of that time in St. Petersburg, and then we'll head back.
And we picked the trip because the tour company basically, it's called EF Tours, and both of us have worked with them in the past. I've taken trips to Asia, Europe, Central America, and I know Teresa has also. And they're wonderful to work with, and they just recently last year started offering the trip to Russia open to students. So we jumped on the opportunity, and we liked the trip also because we're hitting the two major metro areas, the two places most people want to see in Russia without going too remote. And we'll kind of a nice feature of this trip also is we'll be taking a train between Moscow and St. Petersburg. So we'll have a little variety there, not just plane travel, but also rail, which a lot of students haven't done before.
Well, that really depends on when someone registers. And what's nice about EF Tours is once you register, your price is locked in. So we're looking about right around $4,000. And that covers the flights, hotel, in-country transportation, entrances to all the museums, the activities that we're doing, and breakfast every day. So it's really a pretty good value when you consider where we're going and what we're going to be doing. And what is nice is that EF provides a number of ways to pay for that. You can go on a pay plan or set different kinds of pay periods throughout the time between now and when we go. So there's a lot of ways that we can afford that. Students at Tiffin University can also use financial aid. So community members are welcome to join us as well, but financial aid is specific to the TU students.
And then one thing also included that I've had some students ask, well, we have a tour guide with us.
Oh, sure,
we have a full-time tour guide, and with EF Tours, it's the same guide for the entire trip, which we appreciate about that organization. So we'll have someone with us, so we don't have to be able to speak Russian. We will learn a few phrases, hopefully, but that person will be with us, staying in the hotel with us. So really, 24/7 accommodations for us, for them to be with us for the entire trip.
There's also a couple of other options that students can choose. We have a couple of excursions if they choose to do that, and we also have an extension, a 3-day extension to Helsinki for a few students that might want to expand the trip. But I'm like Christina, I think one of the nicest things about using EF is the security and the safety. I started using EF because I wanted to visit a lot of these places, but I really didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to be on my own. And so this was a safe way to get a quick introduction to a country that if I wanted to go back to, now I knew a little bit about that city or a little bit about that country. And so now I've been able to return to those countries and do more in-depth travel. But it is really nice when we've got a tour guide or specific city guides to help us with our questions. And another feature that we've really worked on pretty hard is allowing free time in this 9 days. So depending on students' interests, we'll have free time every afternoon or maybe later in the evening, so that if we need to or want to tour sport facilities or business operations or the criminal justice systems or other universities, we've got some time to do that. Because these trips can be pretty quick and pretty fast. You're moving. And one of the things that EF does for us is because we're planned so far ahead of time, we're not wasting time waiting in lines for tickets. They take care of that for us. So we are going to get a lot of information compressed into those 9 days, but we're going to be at a pace where we get to slow that down every day based on interest. And I think that's going to be a real treat.
Right, exactly. My Russian is lacking. Okay, so some of these events or some of these museums, I really don't know the pronunciations correctly, but of course in Moscow, the Kremlin. We're going to spend almost an entire day. It's a huge facility, not just the building, the spiral peaks that you see in the movies and in pictures, but it's essentially a fortress. And we'll be able to go into different areas of that. Again, all with our tour guide, and as Teresa said, we'll be able to get pretty easy access to those areas. We'll be going to a place called the Armory Palace Museum, which is part of the Kremlin facility and fortress. So we'll be there the entire day, which is pretty exciting. And then we're going to a monastery just outside of Moscow. And then in our free time, again, we're hoping to connect with possibly law enforcement area or agency there for our students to meet with, or university. And then the train ride from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And then in St. Petersburg, we're going to see Peter the Great's palace, something called the Winter Palace, a few museums. We're going to an area in St. Petersburg which is comparable, or I've done some research, and it looks like it's comparable to the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. It's like the longest street in St. Petersburg, just lined with shops and cafes and some museums along the way, and we'll be able to have, I think, 3/4 of a day just in that area alone, just to see the architecture. Goes over several waterways in St. Petersburg, and then we'll have some free time also, which, again, according to the group, the makeup of the group, we'll be able to customize some different opportunities for them. And then each night we'll have a little bit of free time too.
With EF, I took a group, my very first group, we went to Italy and Greece. We were about almost a 21-day trip, because most of us included on the backside of that a trip to the Greek Isles. So we took a cruise at the end of that. And so in that trip, we went from pretty much Rome and south, and then all ended up in Athens. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I took a trip several years later to Costa Rica, and we pretty much did the entire country, left to right. In my current role here at Tiffin University, I get to travel extensively, because we have campuses in Bucharest, Romania, and Taipei, Taiwan, and I go there every year, as well as a number of other places. And we're really lucky, because the institution at Tiffin University is also accredited by a group called the European Council of Business Education, as well as an organization called ACBSP. And Christina and I are headed to the international conference in Brussels coming up, so we'll get a chance to do that. So my goal every year is to get to 5 different countries, and I pretty much meet that opportunity. So I've traveled all over Europe, all over Asia area, and I'm just now kind of breaking into South America.
Okay. And not with Tiffin University, but a previous institution, I was able to take students to Central Europe. We spent some time in Serbia, doing some missions work there, and then also Budapest, Hungary. Took students there on 2 different occasions. One was more of an extended study opportunity for 2 weeks. We studied at a university there. Also to China. That was really my favorite one. I was able to take students to China for 14 days through this current tour company, EF Tours, and we were in 5 cities in 14 days. We were in Beijing about 6 weeks before the Olympics in 2008, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and then a couple other smaller areas, and then also Costa Rica,
Yeah.
Central America. And so looking for the opportunity, to get them to Russia again is something that really none of us have been able to experience, unless we have some faculty here on campus that are from that area, or who frequently travel but haven't had the opportunity to take students there yet. So really looking forward to that.
I just think it helps you understand how lucky we are to be Americans in one respect. I love to travel, but I love to come home. It also opens up your perspective to other ways of doing things, and seeing other cultures and other ways of thinking about humankind. I think it just makes you more comfortable. I think my students in the past have come back and said they're much more confident about travel in general. You gain a lot of confidence in your ability to deal with ambiguity, deal with complexity. You're not really sure what you're doing and where you're going, or how you're going to manage it in a country that's got a different language or a different monetary system, or you have to look at a different food structure, or hotels. Those are quite different in other countries. And so I think it gives students a broadened understanding and appreciation, or maybe tolerance, I'm not sure that's a word but to use, but it changes who they are fundamentally. And so I just think it's a great opportunity for all of us at any age to become aware that there's a great big world out there. And I love where we're at, but I love to experience what other people are doing too. And I think that changes you really completely as an individual.
Well, I think for another advantage of having this tour through the university is most of the students who are attending are getting credit for it. They're able to fulfill, most of them, a culture requirement. Instead of just looking at a textbook and doing some internet research, they're actually able to customize their research project to an area where they're interested in. So enhancing the learning experience is just
huge.
Amazing. And as far as the travel opportunities, for example, I know you've had this experience too. When I went to China, I had a gal on the trip who had never been on an airplane. She'd never been out of Indiana before, and she traveled to Detroit. We put her on a 10-hour flight to Beijing. And she was independent and just came back a changed person. So again, the opportunity just to travel, but also to experience these things. So now for example, when we were in China, when the Olympics happened, we could say, oh yeah, we saw that, and we understand more about what they're talking about. It just enhances your overall awareness of what's going on in the world around you. And with Russia, my goodness, in the news all the time, in different ways. In the Olympics, I believe the Winter Olympics are going to be in Russia.
Yep.
So you'll be seeing a lot of information about Russia in the media. So I think it's extremely relevant timing for what we're doing now.
Well, I do want people to know that although Tiffin University is sponsoring this trip, and we as the faculty member are supporting this trip, the trip is open to friends and family. We have a number of people from the community that have chosen to be a part of this, and we have some family members that are going. So it's important, I think, for all of us as Americans to experience a more global awareness in a global society, and this is one part of the world that just hasn't always been so open to all of us. And so community members are more than welcome, friends and family are more than welcome to join us. If you want more information, please, you can contact myself or Christine here. We also have a website that you can go to. But please get in touch with us. We have a brochure. Our extensions are available online. I don't know if we need to do phone numbers or things, but we have brochures, PowerPoint presentations. We can get to the information. We want you to be informed about what you're getting into in the trip. And get excited about it because it's coming up. It's going to be quick.
Less than 9 months to go, and be able to see this part of the world in a very organized and consistent fashion is the feedback that I've heard. It's like, oh, I've always wanted to go to that area, but how would I begin to plan this on my own? Very exciting opportunity, and I won't say once in a lifetime, but it is. I mean, it's a great time to go.
So please join us.
Yes.